Hi there, greetings and salutations from Hoagies and Hops and as well Philly Water here at 42nd Boulevard. My name is Jim Flurry, that is Derek Schultz, and it is the incredibly charitably, how did I used to say that, Derek? The creatively named and charitably award-winning Quarian Schultz. Is that right?
I've never liked that intro.
Why not?
It implies that the awards that we've won, plural,
Right.
have been like some sort of a charity
They
case.
were, yes. That's exactly what that means.
It's merit-based.
We won one for best live on-air talent locally within our cluster, and we were super excited about it until we realized that we were the last live on-air talent within our cluster.
Now, we were the last of the on-air folks to win said award. That is true.
We were also the last to still have jobs.
We still won the award.
And then 4 months later, we were let go.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that was the holiday
Right?
party.
So that's how you know it's charitable, right? It wasn't even it was like 2 weeks later, wasn't it?
I think that was the same year. Yeah, I'm trying to remember if we were in 2018 or 2019. I still have the plaque hanging up. I should just look at the
either
look
way.
at the year.
Either way, whichever way you want to say it. How are you? Thanks once again for tuning in. Derek, we have plenty to get to today, including kind of recapping the Pacers season, but I want to begin right away with some props, mostly to myself, okay?
Okay.
And again, I know you talk about and you routinely get into like, oh, you know, the rocket ship that we are and all these other absurd things, right?
Why are you saying it that way?
Well, it's reality. But like the rocket ship that was, what's the thing that just went up into space?
Artemis 2.
Artemis 2.
Yeah.
This show is a lot more like that landing into the ocean than it actually
Splashdown.
is.
Splashdown.
Yeah, the splashdown.
Yeah.
But if you recall a couple of years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, myself, my buddies Scott McConnell and Mike Byron, three guys. Scott lives in Chicago. Byron lives here, myself. We decided that what we needed to do was pick an NHL team. We needed to pick a hockey team to get behind, and we're like, let's pick one that then we can do a group text to kind of stay in touch with each other, and we'll eventually do a trip and go to a game and whatever else. And so we decided that we needed to pick a team, and we're like, but we don't want to be bandwagoners. We don't, not like you and your Rangers. You know what I mean?
I am a bandwagon New York Rangers fan. That's true.
So we're like, let's pick a team that nobody would probably likely pick. And we went through and looked at who are the Pacers of our childhood, okay? And so we decided on a team that had not been – it had the longest streak in the NHL without going to the playoffs. Not the Stanley Cup Finals, the playoffs. I think 18 years. The New York Jets are like the only team of the Big Four that have had a longer drought. Now here they are. They fire their GM halfway through the year. They are now divisional champions. And bigger shout out to fan of the show, friend of the show, Greg Poley.
Oh, now I know who you're talking about.
Greg Poley is a diehard fan as well. So allow me, if I may, hang on.
It's like the hat reveal. Look at that. It's an awesome logo, isn't it?
That's the whole reason we picked it.
Yeah, it's
the
so great.
Buffalo Sabres,
the cross
baby.
Sabres.
The Buffalo Sabres
Sweet,
are
man.
on their way to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
They made it in the playoffs, and hockey's weird. Like a team can get swept after, but it is a great logo. It's a great fan base. And Byron, McConnell, myself, Greg Pulley, we're all in. Let's go Sabres. We're all in.
Hockey's weird in the sense that there's a level of randomness to the Stanley Cup playoffs that is unseen in other sports. Even Major League Baseball, there's some randomness there, but nothing.
You got a hot goaltender too.
Yeah, and you'll have a Stanley Cup final where it's like, oh, the 5 seed's playing the 7 seed, and you're like, what? And that's just whatever. That's just how it kind of goes sometimes. So, congrats to Buffalo. Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, as you mentioned, Sabres 18 years, Jets are 14, right? The Rex Ryan years were the last time that they were in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I believe.
No, I thought the Jets were one more year, though.
I don't think it was longer. I think the Jets are now.
The Jets inherited.
Yeah, because think about it. The Sanchez fluke teams were 09 and 10 when they went to back-to-back AFC Championship games.
What's Sacramento Kings?
Sacramento Kings just won a couple of years ago. They ended like a 20-something year drought with Sabonis, and they still had De'Aaron Fox and that one kind of flash-in-the-pan Kings season that they had. When we actually questioned the Sabonis-Halliburton trade for like a millisecond, and then you realize, no, they did the right thing.
Okay, speaking of flash in the pan, I got to get this cord out of the way.
Sorry.
Speaking of flash in the pan, this Pacers season was exactly that we hope. Now, we don't know for certain how things are going to work out now with Halliburton coming back, and we can get a lot into some of the challenges he's had in his recovery. But, Derek, before we do that, obviously, when you look at right now the Pacers season, it has come to an end. They lost more games than any, and this is hard to believe, for myself and people of my age group. When you think about the dark days of the Brown Curtain and Jose Slaughter and Brooks Steppe and Steve Stepanovich, who was not a bad player.
And a nice guy. Remember we had him on the show.
Nice guy,
great dude.
But when you think about those lean years, never have they had a season like they just did, 19-63. But, of course, it's a little bit different because we knew what was at stake there. The gap year is over, Derek. We can all let out a deep sigh. It's over with. Now it's back to, okay, let's see what's there. Question is, what did we learn or not learn about this year and this team?
I don't know if it was a learning experience this year because I think you throw a lot out from what happened this year.
Okay,
right?
Okay, then let me rephrase that then. What do you throw out? What things do you take away from this year and say, okay, you can build on that? And what things from this year do you look at and say, that was nice, but it was but
okay, first off, I'm throwing out the record, right? I'm throwing out the actual results and all of that. I do think that it was meaningful to have somebody like Andrew Nembhard at times be your best player on the floor and be relied upon in that way. Whereas that would never be the case with a healthy roster, right? No offense to Nembhard. I mean, Nembhard's a really good player. And on a different team, that could be the case. But I think there's something to that. I think there's something to, Aaron Nesmith and Pascal Siakam going through it a little bit. You think about Nesmith with the Celtics and then over to the Pacers. For the most part, he hadn't dealt with a season, certainly not to this level. I'm thinking back on Siakam with those Raptors teams. I don't think they ever bottomed out. They might have missed the playoffs a year or two when he was there. Maybe I have my timeline a little bit hazy, but you can tell that Siakam, especially, none of the players like going through it, right? But Siakam, especially, this cut deeply for him to be a loser, a guy that's been a winner his entire career, and hopefully it's just kind of a short-term loser. But I just think what you take away from it is the fact that they did it, they didn't screw it up. This was the best thing for them moving forward. The absolute worst-case scenario for the Pacers this year was not going 20-62. It was going 35-47.
Right.
And they didn't do that, right? They're guaranteed nothing. The Pacers could lose the pick to the Clippers, right? And then I think you view this season in a different prism. I would not have made the gamble that they made on this pick. They gambled this pick. But that said, if it does work out that it's a top 4 pick and you get it, then I think starting, when's the draft lottery? May 10th?
It's Mother's Day.
Yeah, starting on May 11th, you turn the page and we never talk about the 25-26 Pacer season ever again.
Derek, let me tell you one thing that happened in the season finale at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. And I mentioned this on my radio show, but different audience, so I'm going to illustrate it again. There was a play in the Pacers' final game of the season that completely summarized. It was the season encapsulated in one video. It was at the end of a quarter. I can't remember which quarter. I think it was the third quarter. Might have been the first, but I think it was the third. Either way, it's irrelevant. The Pacers at one point to Detroit, the number 1 seed in the East, were down nearly 30. But at one point at the end of the quarter, Obi Toppin got kind of a breakaway. He got an uncontested trip to the lane for a dunk. And you look up, and there were only a couple of seconds left when he got the ball. And Obi Toppin, who's been out for most of the year, and every once in a while you go to a great party or a great gathering with friends, and it's such a wonderful, magical evening that you try to recapture it later with the same group of people. And it's still fun, but you're like, yeah, I feel like we're just kind of like chasing the awkwardness of what was supposed to be. And that's kind of what happened when Obi Toppin got the ball, because everybody in the building, everybody's looking at it, and everybody knows what's about to happen. Obi Toppin's about to go flying through the air, show his incredible athleticism, his lift, all of that, and he's about to put on a show here. And this team is 19-62, about to be 19-63. And he goes up, and he goes through the air, and he goes between his legs, and he shows the agility and the force and all of it. And everybody goes absolutely crazy. People, I mean, literally, People were going nuts. The video boards replaying it, and no one noticed it didn't count. No one noticed it didn't count, and the horn had gone off, and the backboard was red while he was in the middle of the air because everybody was so thirsting to see what it was that was a reminder of the greatness of what we'd seen a year ago. And that reminder, that glimpse to it, was just enough to remind us what it all felt like, that we didn't even care then that the Pacers had a year where they went 19-63 because they did what they had to do. And they finished it with the same level of force that Toppin did with that dunk, even though it didn't matter. And the fact that they reminded everybody, and it was a sold-out arena for a 19-win team. And all of it perfectly encapsulates exactly what this year was, Derek. And that is, you had to almost be stylish at times. You had to finish it the way that you designed it to do. And everyone watching it knew exactly what was happening. Everyone watching it knew exactly why they were going to go 19-63 once the injuries had mounted. And now, if you get the pick, to me, that's gravy. You've gotten Zubats. You kind of did your job there. You replaced Miles Turner. You found the replacement. And, yes, it cost you Benedict Mathurin and potentially one of those four players. But even if you don't get the throw-in, I think you're still in pretty good shape based on where you were a year ago. But you got a 2-year window. And that 2-year window, because I watched Detroit, Derek, and I'm like, the Pacers at full strength beat these guys by 15.
Yeah.
And that's a number one seed, right?
I think the way that I'd put it is that if they keep the pick, then it's still just an overpay that makes sense because you're paying a premium to get a starter like Zubats, right? If you lose the pick, then it becomes a severe overpay, I think, for Zubats. Now, results pending, right? Because if Zubats becomes a key piece of an NBA Finals championship team, then you don't care, right?
Derek, but my thing is this, and we can argue this till the cows come home, but you got Zubats already, right? The pick is gravy because the roster based on, if you look at what they did a year ago, they were one half from winning the NBA Finals. And you're not really subtracting anything off of that team. Miles Turner is gone. If Zubats can replace him, then your subtraction is Benedict Mathurin, who's a really good player, but at the same time, was there ever really, other than a few games, I mean, was he a key piston that was helping you continue to fire the engine?
No, in the context of it, you were going to lose Mathurin anyway. Right. I think that's how the Pacers viewed it. But, Jake, if we're just looking at what you gave up and erasing the context from it, if you gave up the 5th overall pick, Ben Mathurin, and another one for a guy that's never been an all-star, that's an overpay, right? I mean, there's just no other way around that. Whereas if it ends up just being, I don't know what it's protected towards, and then the next year it rolls over to the next year, whatever it ends up being, somewhere in the 20s or something like that, then you lessen the blow a little bit on that deal. But again, with the context that you just outlined, I don't want people to be like, oh, Schultz are saying that I was in favor of the trade. I was in favor of the trade because I didn't want them to lose Mathurin for nothing.
Right.
I don't think that he factored into their future plans. But, I think that the way that they did it, and it's top 4 protected, right? But if it falls outside of that, I think that puts that trade in a different prism than how we are taking it right now.
But here's the thing. When I look at the trade and I look at the pick, my thought is, man, if they were to somehow miss out on Dabonza, Boozer, Wilson, Peterson. And then I remind myself, well, they wouldn't be able to get one of those guys anyway if it goes to 5 or below. They have to be in the top 4, which they would hold on to anyway. If it go, and it's a very deep draft.
Yeah,
Flemings is a good player. I mean, there's a lot. Acuff has really come up, but he's not a position they need. So the one thing that's interesting, Derek, is the depth beyond pick 4 are players at position that Indiana already is pretty well taken care of. And the players in that top 4 are all players that fill the exact void of what the Pacers don't necessarily need, but it would certainly help, if you will. But I'm telling you right now, I don't know what you want to come up with as some sort of an outlandish thing, but I will do whatever outlandish thing there is if the Pacers end up with the pick that allows them to take A.J. Dabonza. They will win. This upcoming year is going to be another extension. It's going to be a reacclimation year, okay? But the season after that, so it would technically be the 27-28 season. if they stay healthy, they're going to win 60 games. I'm telling you. That group, and you add in if they get the bounce. I mean,
I think they're really. You're right. There's a reacclimation period, but I don't think there's any reason to believe that team's not going to contend.
Totally.
I mean, unless Halliburton, God forbid, had some sort of a setback or the Achilles recovery really wasn't what we were expecting it to be.
But Derek, and that's the one question mark here is, I had concern when Halliburton announced when it was announced that Tyrese Halliburton had shingles. I remember having on Ralph Reef, who's a friend of the show, great guy, who's the leading training, medical training, sports athletic training expert in the area. And I had him on the show to say, I know this sounds crazy, but if somebody gets shingles, can that impact or delay the repair of a tendon? Can the body say, okay, like,
because it's diverting all its attention?
Yeah, you guys all take the month off. We got to get rid of this shingles.
We're not
stuff.
doctors or anything here, right? Yeah.
And what he said was, well, what can happen is it can certainly just hurt your body's energy level, so to speak, right? And so, I don't know about the repair process, but what is very clear, because Halliburton now has made no bones about it and has been very upfront, I commend him for that, about the fact that he's gained weight. I mean, for two reasons. Number one, you go from moving all the time and burning like 5,000 calories a day to suddenly like you can't move, right?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the medication that he's taking because of the shingles has caused him to gain weight because his appetite and everything else. He can work that off, but that means that he's going to have to put even more energy on that Achilles to get that weight off. It complicates things. It does.
Well, I heard you talk about this with Dustin Dopirak on your show yesterday, because I'm an avid Query and Company listener, mostly for Eddie Garrison's Killer Drop-Ins. But you would, and I texted you, and you didn't reply because you never reply when I text you anything.
During the show?
Well, yeah, but I thought like later that night you might reply, or even you'd call me. Jake's a call person, so he likes to pick up the phone and call, which is fine. I have no problem. I mean, Jake and I have hour-long conversations weekly.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember when we did the
last time we had an hour-long conversation, you were crying for 58 of it after we got laid off.
So we did. I was fighting back tears.
Okay.
We did the Reggie Wayne show. We did other player shows, right? But we also did a Pacers player show with George Hill.
Yep.
Did we do that 2 years?
I think we did do it 2 years.
I think we did it 2 years, if I remember right. God, this was 15 years ago at this point, right? Or just about 15 years ago. And I remember, George Hill was, 180, 190 pounds soaking wet, pretty much. Right? And we went to a downtown establishment, and the food was comped, which normally would happen. For celebrities and public figures, Jake and I get our food comped a lot of times, and then George would get his food comped. And he'd get he'd get a whole plate of wings and a whole thing,
basket.
and he'd just mow down. And it's like, yeah, I mean, he was 25 probably at that time, and he was practicing and working out and all of that. And I think there's this feeling that some guys, some athletes have the diets where who is the baseball player that would ship in like buffalo steaks?
Yeah,
you know who I'm talking about? Dwight Freeney. Okay, maybe it wasn't a baseball player. Maybe that was Freeney. Freeney was obsessed with his weight. Jeff Saturday had to be obsessed with. He had to eat all the time.
Joe Wright, he couldn't talk about.
Yeah,
Joe Wright's would to gain weight.
Yeah, exactly. Some linemen you kind of have to go the opposite way. But there are some of these guys that, and it's not that they don't take care of themselves. It's just that they're still feeling like, well, I'm working out all the time and I can eat this and be fine. So I'm not that worried about Tyrese Halliburton's weight, because I know how serious he takes his craft and how much he wants and how much he's driven is to be the best, right? So I think he'll get back on track that way. But when you kind of pile all those things, like you had mentioned on your show, your radio show, on top of each other, the injury, the rehab, the shingles, being more sedentary than you've probably ever been in your life.
Correct.
Since you were 5 years old, essentially, it adds up.
My dream at this point is to just be sedentary, right?
See, that's where you and I are similar in a lot of ways.
What way? No, hold on. In what ways are we similar?
We are both very much defensive of the city. And, we both have a deep love of community. I love just randomly talking to random people that I'm never going to see again in my life about, hey, why are you here? How what's your job? How'd you meet your wife? How'd you meet your husband? Like, I love stuff like that. I love it. My wife is appalled.
You think we have that in common? Or
yeah, you love to just strike up random conversations with people. I love that too. So there are some similarities. I mean, we're both, this is weird because, like, you can't really think this about yourself necessarily, but we've both been told that we're easy on the eyes, right? So, so good looking,
I've never
handsome.
been told that about you ever.
We've been told those things before as well. But what were we even talking about? Where we're similar?
I don't know. You said we have a lot of things in common and a lot of differences. What area where we're different?
We were talking about Halliburton, and then he's going to – what did you say after I completed my thought about Halliburton?
I don't know.
Why did I lose my train of thought here? Derek and Jake very easy on – okay, see, they've got the crayon the graphics fixed there, but that's what we were just talking about. I had a point before you got me off track because you said, wait, we have a lot of things in common, and now I'm trying to think of what we were talking about.
I said that I would like to live a
sedentary life. Yes. Right. That is one area where we are completely different because I think I'm going to work until 70, hopefully not because of necessity, but because I like to work. I like to wake up every morning and have somewhere to be or a purpose. My wife is the type of person, like, you give her a book and a beach and she'll do that all week long. In fact, she'll do that for all year long. And I think you're kind of the same way, right? Where you just chill out, give you a dog. Yes. Yeah, give you a dog and a metal detector or whatever on the sand, and you'll be doing that for the rest of your life, right? For me, I'm like, I'm a terrible vacationer. I get spastic. I need a to-do list. I need errands. I need a function. And so I think that's one area where we differ. But, like, being good-looking and famous and some of the other things where we kind of connect on a more personal level, I think there are more similarities than differences.
Do you remember that time that we had a survey over which of the two of us was better looking, and you doctored it by calling people and telling them to vote? Do you remember that?
No. On Twitter or something?
Like, which of us has more sex appeal? And you,
I remember that one. Yeah.
And you were
I won going away
for it.
I wasn't campaigning for it.
Oh,
it was 663-37.
I got 7 different notifications in my phone. Derek Schultz would like you to vote.
We had 1,200 votes now, and it was 63-37.
No.
Now, I think what ended up happening was
charity votes.
Do you remember our listener, April?
Yes.
I think originally you could set the limit on how often you could vote, and originally I had unlimited votes, and I think April might have voted for, clicked on me 200 times. So I think that might have – April is a big fan. Hi, April, if you're still watching.
April. April's the best.
Yeah, April's great. I really like April too. But and she was not bashful about the fact that she was clearly Team Schultz.
Charitably. April.
But it was 63-37.
April has rescue dogs.
Yeah, she's a wonderful person.
April's daughter works, helping people out. I mean, it's a very charitable family. So when she saw that you were up against me, there was charity there.
And I always appreciate, and we have other listeners, this is not unique to April, who have overcome extreme challenges in life that were not their doing. Correct. Or had really nothing to do with them. It's just, good luck, bad luck sort of situation, and she's overcome some bad luck.
No question.
Yeah.
No question. But that's, one of the things on a side note, Derek, that truly has been fun about this show is the number of people like that we have fun with, that have become friends and whatever else.
Because we've talked about this. I mean, Jake especially. Jake has had the easiest life. Outside of the bad ticker, Jake's had the easiest life of anybody I've ever known. And I had a very cush.
You think my life's easier than yours?
Well, both of our – but think about it. Honestly, in all seriousness, both of our parents being married for 50 whatever years,
I'm not
right?
With you in any way, shape, or form,
we never left for one. Mommy and Daddy paid for my college education. You know what I mean? No we've been on easy street for the most part.
I did have somebody say to me the other day when I mentioned that I've been to all 50 U.S. states, and they said, is your least favorite Connecticut? Because that's where Schultz is from.
I'm glad that people always make that connection. I think – maybe less so for me than for you. You'll always be when people talk to you, I'm sure I come up a lot. You don't come up as often when people are talking to me about things like that. But we were mentioning, some of the Pacers stuff. And I did want to make mention of this just because it was a really funny, it's very rare that the Colts or Pacers go viral for anything.
Right.
Remember when Blue knocked over that kid in the flag football game or something like that, kind of put the Colts viral a little bit. That Pacers couple in the Brooklyn game in New York really had a moment.
They were in Brooklyn, right?
They were in Brooklyn.
Right.
And they're having a conversation about something they're not expecting to be on camera. And she basically looks at him while he's explaining this long story, and she goes, and you could tell from lip reading, what the are you even talking about? Basically kind of thing. And then they did an interview with Alex Golden, who I know you've had on your show at Setting the Pace. And they even went on Inside the NBA, and Shaq said that he'd buy them an engagement ring if he proposed right then. But I just kind of thought that was funny that.
Did he do it?
No, he didn't. You don't think of anytime the Pacers get attention nationally, to me, it's still like a novelty.
Yeah,
right.
That's fair.
Whereas,
still, like when you see Pacer stuff out in the wild,
yeah,
you know
like in a different area of the country, you're like, oh my God.
When last year when we did our road trip, Byron and I, and we went through the Baseball Hall of Fame notably, and it was like a month after the finals, and I was wearing Pacer stuff, and I mean the number of people that stopped me, they're like, Pacers, unbelievable. I mean, they were the toast of the sports world there for about a month, right?
Yeah, we missed each other by like 3 days in Cooperstown. Remember
you
that?
did the same trip I did.
You ripped off my trip.
No.
I went before you. We did Fenway and Cooperstown, but we went to Cooperstown to see family. We didn't even go to the Hall of Fame. My uncle and aunt have lived there for 30 years, and my uncle grew up in that area.
It is neat.
It's the middle of nowhere.
By the way, speaking of one other thing on a sidebar here, which this today has turned into exactly that, nothing but sidebars.
I think we've had a good show up until you got us a little bit off track.
When you mentioned that Shaq was going to buy that fellow a ring,
yeah.
Do you think I'm curious about this because this has become all the rage now, not necessarily in terms of popularity, but you hear about it more now. Do you think the lab-grown diamonds are considered cheating, or is that sufficient?
No, I would think that most people would consider that, not the right way to go. Even though I've seen them and I can't tell. I'm not an expert.
I don't think the average person can tell, right?
No, the average person absolutely can't tell. But I mean, your fiance would know. Right?
Don't they have to take it to the jeweler? They'd probably take it to the jeweler and find out, right?
I remember how excited I was because, and I know you lived this life too. I mean, early in your career, in your 20s, when you're trying to make it in media, you're not exactly rolling in
Correct.
the dough, right? And I was able to buy Ashley's engagement ring and just buy it outright and not finance it. And I remember how proud I was of myself. Yeah. It's like when you buy your car and you're like, wait, I bought this, type of thing.
I couldn't do that now.
Oh yeah, you could query painting and all that stuff. I know.
Okay.
I don't think you could have done it 15 years ago when we started the show, but I know you've been squirreling stuff away for a while. And I also saw what IndyCar pays you, which is just. I really thought when the Penske's took that over, they were going to shut the faucet off for you, but. Apparently, that thing's still running, man. It's like my sink at home. It's
By the way,
overflowing.
speaking of that, I am going, Derek, later in the show. We'll save it for later for our one of our not buy it or bullshits by any stretch of the imagination, but one of our quick hits I'll do later in the show. And when I tell you where I'm going this weekend on Saturday and who I'm going with, you, my friend, are going to be what we call envious.
Where's IndyCar this weekend?
Long Beach.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Because I don't know. I was just in California, though. Time for our Hoagie and Hero of the Week. We got the spotlight here. There it is. We got the Market Street here. Market Street. So we got some ham, a little chopped turk, a little Munster cheese, very underrated sandwich cheese, a little Thousand Isle, and slaw as well. That's what really kind of brings this together. This is like the old reliable sandwich. When I'm a regular here at Hoagies and Hops, as Christina and her crew knows. When I'm just like, I'm not having a strong feeling. Like, sometimes I come in here and I'm like, I definitely want a cheesesteak. Or sometimes I come in here and I definitely want the hog, or I definitely want the Always Sunny. Sometimes I come in here and I'm like,
I definitely want the hog.
Everything. Yeah, give me the whole hog.
You come in here sometimes.
Everything.
I definitely want the hog.
Everything looks good. I don't really know what to pick. Usually, this is my default pick when I'm just confused and I'm like, you know what? Just give me the Market Street because it's reliable. It's really good.
Got a sweetness to it.
Yeah, it's good.
By the way, after the Pacer game on Sunday night, driving down Mass, I guess it would have been, Chillywater, other location. Perfect night out, right? So it was packed, just like it should be in here. And when you come in, you can get the Comfortably Numb. Now, I'm not going to say that automatically I start thinking about, like, websites, but when I looked at it, I'm like, oh, it's the .com Fort Abley Numb. And then I'm like, oh, no, that's the Comfortably Numb. Right from Chillywater, the pale ale right here in the perfect Pink Floyd can design. Really good Sando. Now, pale ales typically have a lot of hop to it. That's a subtle. This is a perfect combo. Honestly, the Comfortably Numb and this. No, which sandwich is it, Derek? The
Market Street.
Market Street.
Market Street.
So the Market Street has kind of a subtle sweetness to it, and then the Comfortably Numb has just the subtle hop to it. It's a perfect combination.
It's a great. You're out on the porch, Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard here, Chili Water Tap Room. You just go right outside the door right here and enjoy a beer. It's a great summer beer. Our hero of the week this week, I gave it to Rory McIlroy. I'll be honest, this was our first baseball weekend, so little kid baseball weekend. So we basically did that all day Saturday and Sunday. We had soccer. We had a birthday party. We had a get-together with friends. I'm not coaching this year. I retired.
Okay.
Retired, yeah.
Oftentimes, as I say, sorry for having the food in my mouth. Oftentimes, the team that a young person plays for in Little League can go on to becoming their favorite team in real life. And I know you were the Grasshoppers last year, right?
Yes. You remembered.
Are they still using fictional names like that, or are they going with real baseball teams?
It's real minor league baseball teams.
Okay. I'm going to say that your son is a member of the Lookouts.
No, but they're in the league, I think.
The Biscuits.
It's a team that used to be in the International League.
Lugnuts.
No, Lugnuts was last year. We had a Lugnuts
Tides.
team. Tides is the younger kids.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask one other hint question. You know, I love these guessing games. The city in which this minor league team plays, would I be happy if I got transferred to go live in that town?
No. I don't think so. It's no, it's not the former home of an IndyCar race. It's just one of those kind of like I'm trying to think of an example. It's like
what would you guess?
It would be like the Peoria, Illinois of the Northeast.
Okay, the Iron Pigs.
No, but you're in the right ballpark. I didn't think about it. Lehigh Valley actually is a better comp to Peoria than this one that I mentioned.
I don't know what Syracuse is, but
you're getting warmer.
Oh, at Rochester Red Wings.
Rochester Red Wings.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, is that right? Like, it's just kind of one of those. It's a city that you just nobody thinks about.
Kodak is based there.
Is it really?
Uh-huh.
I don't think I knew that.
I don't know if Kodak's still around, who's buying film these days, but yes, Kodak is based in Rochester.
Gotcha. Okay.
We're
the Rochester Red Wings this year. So getting back to our winner of the week, though, I wasn't able to watch really any of the Masters, so I didn't see Rory's collapse on Saturday. And then, Derek, it was kind of one of those things. You ever watching a game and you're like, this team's trying to give the game away, and yet the other team just is not willing to take it? Yes. That's sort of what the Masters was, where Rory tried to hand that off to somebody else, and nobody, at least on Sunday.
You just described how Illinois fans feel about the national semifinal, right?
Nobody really went to take
I think Rory McIlroy deserves the hero of the week here from Hoagies and Hops for this reason. And when you watch professional sports in general, when you watch sports, you like to see you watch it because you want to see somebody that does what you can't do, while at the same time exhibiting a vulnerability that reminds you of yourself. And in the case of McIlroy, golf is such a middle sport. Golf is a sport where, most guys you talk to or gals, how'd you shoot today? Yeah, I just couldn't swing it. And by the time I got to 4, my day was done. Okay. He had 2 unbelievable rounds. He had the largest lead through two rounds, I should say, in Masters history. And then on Saturday, he has a disastrous day, or a potentially disastrous day. The ability to rally back mentally from that on Sunday and rechannel the focus and put that aside, that's what separates the elite from the non-elite, and that's what separates the professionals from the amateurs. So to be able to watch that was a reminder of not just the vulnerability that anybody has in golf, but also the focus that allowed him to be what he is, a 2-time now Masters winner in back-to-back years.
Yeah, that was a good sandwich.
It is great. Allow me.
Yeah, I think what it is, Jake, sorry for our podcast listeners, and apologies, I guess, for our video watchers as well. I think what these guys can do that are truly great like this is that, we praise them for normalizing greatness. They can also normalize failure, where it's just like, you know what? I had a bad day. Turn it off, go to the next one. I think the biggest difference between being a professional athlete and being a fan, outside of obviously the athleticism and physical nature of it, is just mentally, I just don't think, people at home, your favorite team loses or you collapse, and it just sticks with you, right? It ruins your week.
Right.
And sometimes it ruins your month. And for these athletes, they're able to just sort of turn it off. And I think Rory did a nice job turning it off, even though, again, going back and watching with how he played on Sunday, it felt like one of those things where he was, sort of hanging on, but nobody kind of came to take it from him. But it's also interesting. I mean, Rory McIlroy's had a really interesting career. He came on like a house of fire, right? And won, four majors in, 3 years? And then he goes 11, 12 years without winning one. And you thought, okay, this guy's going to be a never was, just a guy that started hot. He's going to be like the Trae Young of golf,
right,
or something like that. And now, by winning back-to-back Masters, he's completed the career Grand Slam. He has 6 majors. He's put himself in a tie with Nick Faldo and Phil Mickelson and guys like that. I mean, you're talking about now you're approaching top 10 golfer all-time level, Rory. And no one would have said that 13 months ago.
And I don't know, Derek, and I'll just ask you this. I mean, I'll defer to you on this. Where does Rory McIlroy, from the fan base perspective, in a sport that has had, based on the split of it and other such things, some pretty polarizing figures of late. McIlroy, in terms of fan acceptance and or fan base, is seen how?
Let me say this. We are both very much golf noobs. I'm a little less newbie than you are, maybe. But the way that I feel like Rory's always been received as, obviously there are American fans that don't like him because of the Ryder Cup successes, right? And he's a European player. But I don't think anybody's got anything against Rory. I don't think people are.
So he has no skeletons, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. I didn't know. I mean, I'm legitimately asking.
I think he had a little bit of a reputation for choking in big spots and things like that, similar to like Mickelson, who, ironically enough, he's now tied with all-time majors. But I think when you take into account the Ryder Cup successes and then the individual successes with 6 career majors, he's now sort of in that conversation for being on the fringe of the top 10 of all time of anybody. And the guys I just mentioned, Faldo, Mickelson, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, it's basically Jack Nicklaus and Tiger, put them wherever you want, 1, 2. And then there's this second tier of a bunch of guys that you kind of throw in there. And I think now
different guys have had their turn, right? Different guys have had their thing where you're like, Jordan Spieth is another one that, like, Jordan Spieth started out like a house of fire. And it's like, oh my gosh, this guy's the next guy. And then it's like, wait, is he still around? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're kind of quickly forgotten when it comes to all that. Hoagiesandhops.com. I just saw Christina before we were taping earlier this morning. She had a whole stack of catering trays. Don't forget catering. Hoagiesandhops.com. Catering for, upcoming graduations and proms and summer open houses, whatever.
Get-togethers.
Yeah, anything and everything. Go to hoagiesandhops.com and take advantage of that catering menu. And then, of course, Chili Water Brewing Tap Room, the open door. They got the garage door here, the beautiful patio, delicious beers on tap. Come check it out, 42nd and Boulevard, anytime you're right here in Midtown. We come back on the show. We will get into the Colts and the draft. We're just a week away. Can they find starters? Because as much as they've concentrated on building depth.
Did you say stars or starters?
They need starters.
Either one,
at
right?
A couple of positions. We'll talk about that when we return. It's Bailey and Wood presents Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back, Corey and Schultz. Presented by Bailey and Wood Financial Group. They're the ISC Sports
They're
Network.
the best,
Jake
by
up
the way.
there. They're great.
Their golf outing is going to be here before we know it. The weather's broken, right?
Yeah, God, that's August.
4 months.
4 months away. Football season will be back as well. That's always one of the highlights of the year down there at Dyes
Oh,
Walk.
it's great.
Always a lot of fun. It's also home buying season right now. So Bailey and Wood Financial Group can take care of you if you're looking to get pre-approval for your home mortgage, or if you're looking to refi, you can do that too at BAWFG.com, BaileyandWoodFinancialGroup.com, BAWFG.com, or 855-350-HOME. You know what I haven't seen in a while is Homer.
That's
Remember their mascot?
Yeah.
It was a house with arms and legs, and it reminded me of Hoagie the Hoosier, which was my idea as an Indiana University undergraduate
Can you
student
imagine?
when they did not have a mascot.
Can you imagine what a disgrace it would have been if Indiana had a 16-0 undefeated season and Fernando Mendoza was up on the stage and Hoagie the Hoosier was walking around?
Hoagie. Yeah, not
What-
Hoagie.
Whatever his name was.
Who?
Your stupid
Hoagie
state idea
the
with
Hoosier.
Terre Haute growing arms out of it.
So he'd have like Mickey Mouse gloves
The only thing fitting about that is it made Terre Haute an armpit, right?
and then sneakers. And it was just a giant state of Indiana. No school, this is shocking to me, especially because you have a lot of boxy states, especially in the Midwest and the Plain states. No school has done just a giant state that they represent with arms and legs. Why is that?
Well,
Because it's just natural, like
terrifying.
a human form with
Derek,
the state of Indiana, and you
let me
got
ask
the
you.
little kick out. So he's almost got like a little tail where Evansville is.
You don't think that people would be offended by you're making the armpits of Indiana Terre Haute and Richmond?
Well, Richmond's a little lower than an armpit. That'd be more like a Hoosie's hip bone.
so the
Armpit would be more like Fort Wayne, which isn't an armpit. I really like.
So Fort Wayne, and then what you're going to put? You're just going to do that to Gary, or are you going to put that more like
Gary's
in
a little too high. Gary
like
would be
the
like
wind
shoulder.
farms?
Yeah, like the windmill stuff would be. Yeah, I could use a couple of windmills right. Am I okay? No, I can use a couple of windmills right there. Yeah, summertime. That's what ends up happening. Anyway, BAWFG.com for our friends at Bailey Wood Financial Group. I'm sure they're thrilled with that plug that we just gave them. And all kinds of Indiana branch locations all across central Indiana as well for their
You're done.
five-star customer
Are you done with the
service
pit check?
to take. Yeah, I'm done with the pit check.
Okay.
Yep.
What
Shirt
would
I
be-
I bought it was like a targeted Instagram ad, and it said
So-
it
so
was
let
like
me ask you this.
cooling for
In
your
your-
pits.
in
And
your
I'm
little-
like,
Your little
How
Hoagie
cool is
the
that?
Hoosier thing or whatever, right? Like, what's Jeffersonville? What anatomically does Jeffersonville become?
Jeffersonville.
That's uncomfortable, right?
Would be like a
Yeah, I see. That's the problem.
Can we say? Do people use the word grundle? Would that be? Should we not use that term? I didn't know if that was. That's like a medical term, right? Like if you had like a laceration in that area, or it wouldn't be groin. It's too low to be groin.
I'd like to apologize to Bailey and Wood, Chateau Kitchens, the American Dairy Association of Indiana, all of the wonderful Hoagies and Hops, Chili Water, all that are on board with us and
if
loyal
you're in,
to
like,
us
medical
and
school,
kind.
what would you would probably use that term? Or is there a name for that? I'm sorry, and if there is, you can email us, derek@queryandschultz.com, if there's a name for that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not trying, sometimes on the show, especially with Jake, we get kind of like immature, like, haha, like, ooh, funny joke. Like, I was being serious. Like, that, I've never heard it called anything else. But that's what Jeffersonville, and that's not a knock on Jeffersonville. I mean, every part of the human body has a function, even an armpit, even though mine are way more aggressive than most. We were going to talk Colts. You ready to talk
Your
Colts?
armpit would be Clifty Falls, by the
Yeah.
way.
You ready to talk Colts? Yeah,
Yes.
You're not wrong about that. So, Colts have a bit of a problem, Jake, and I'm sure you're aware of this problem as you have a daily radio
They have
show
more than a bit of a problem.
in this town. While I think you and I were both on board with moving on from Michael Pittman Jr. and moving on from Zaire Franklin, and God, how about Kenny Moore? That happened in between our last show. Kenny Moore with the trade demand as well, and changing out some leadership presences in that locker room. I just think that there is, Larry Bird said it a long time ago about head coaches. I think it's also true about player leadership. I just think sometimes voices become stale. especially when you're not winning. And the Colts just haven't really been winning. I really like Michael Pittman Jr. I'm a fan of Zaire the person, and I love Kenny Moore. But they're not winning with those guys at the top of the roster. But you have to replace those guys. And while you have a replacement for Kenny Moore, if and when you move on from him, Justin Wally, you kind of slot up right in the slot. You don't have a replacement right now on the roster for Michael Pittman Jr.
Right.
You don't have a replacement right now for Zaire Franklin. Kwity Paye, who is another guy that we were both kind of on, and it was time to move on. You don't have a replacement for him, though. Kwity Paye's not a great player,
the best way
but
to say
he's
it,
not
Derek,
a bad player
here's
either.
the best way to say it. A year ago when they were 8-2, the play preceding the very last play of the Colts season where Daniel Jones took a snap without anybody discussing in any way, shape, or form his health, okay? On that play, are the Colts a better team right now than they were then?
Yeah, I mean, a strong argument could be made that no, they're not. And that's even with agreeing with moving on from, these other players that you have. So, the Colts only have 2 top 100 picks because of the Sauce Gardner deal, right? 47th and 78. They have 7 picks overall. And they don't have starters at linebacker, at outside wide receiver, or at second edge. You don't have those guys right now. And it's extremely difficult to find a second edge player. Tuamolau was kind of disappointing for his first year. If you're expecting him to be that guy, I don't think Arden
That
Key
is a position
can be
that has
guy.
one of the slower acclamations, though.
Yeah. And there is no outside wide receiver on this roster just in general. And you need more bodies at linebacker. I know that they brought in a couple via free agency, but a lot of those guys aren't starter caliber players. So they need to find a way to sort of figure that out. And I think if there has been, and it's a little bit glass half full, glass half empty, particularly at linebacker. Glass half full, Chris Bauer's been really good at identifying linebackers. Zaire Franklin was a 7th-round pick.
Agreed.
EJ Speed was he 6th?
He had a tough year, EJ Speed. Right?
Yeah, but he was good when he was here for the most
and that
part.
system he was
Especially
very good,
considering
right.
that he was a day 3 pick.
Right.
I mean, you get a day 3 pick that could be a starter for you. That's a win, regardless of what level of starter that they are. Colts have been pretty good at identifying. Shaq Leonard obviously is an extreme example, but they've been good at identifying those players. And in Lou Anarumo's scheme, it's not super important to have a game-changing linebacker, right? But you still need starters at that spot. I think linebacker is the easiest one for them to solve. I think it's going to be very hard to solve edge with a day 2 pick. Wide receiver, I think you could, if they pick somebody in the second round, you could come in and play right away. But they're going to need that to happen, Jake. They're going to need guys to come in and play right away.
But Pittman, I'm telling you, Michael Pittman Jr. is a player that, and it's not like there was some ill will, ugly divorce type thing. Don't get me wrong. And I think people appreciated and liked him. But because Michael Pittman Jr. was at one time almost by default assigned as the number 1 receiver, I'm using air quotes there, that's how he was judged in Indianapolis. And I think we're about to find out that he had more value and brought more versatility and reliability to that offense than he was given credit.
Yeah, I think Michael Pittman Jr. Was a soldier through a lot, was a good guy, and was a good player. I think the biggest sin for Michael Pittman Jr. was that he was not a great player.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he was a very good player.
When you have a guy that's a number 1 receiver, you need them to be great. And Pittman he was never that. I mean, remember for all those years we had that argument about, is T.Y. Hilton the number 1 receiver? No offense to Michael Pittman, but T.Y. Hilton was 3 times the player that Michael Pittman Jr. was, just from a production standpoint and all of that. Now, he played with much better quarterbacks, right? Or at least, he got Andrew Luck for whatever it was, 6-7 years. Whereas Michael Pittman Jr. had to, I talked about him being a good soldier. He had to soldier through some really inept quarterback play. But you just weren't going for his level of production, and considering his injury history and everything else, you weren't going to pay somebody like that $29 million. You just weren't. I think Michael Pittman Jr. is back here had he been on a more reasonable contract.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the contract you had to no question.
Yeah,
no doubt about that.
That's why. But it's, I think we praised the Colts for allowing the regime change in that locker room. because Chris Ballard had kind of been, team run it back, right? And they're losing Franklin and Pittman and guys that have been around. Quiddy Pay played here 5 seasons, right? Guys that have been around for a long time, but you still have to replace those guys. And I just don't feel like the Colts did a good enough job of that in free agency. So now you're going to have to potentially get lucky in the draft to do it.
By the way, speaking of the draft, and I didn't know if you were being sarcastic, which I assume, or if you were being serious, which I was flattered by. But you actually quote tweeted me by saying that something that I mention yearly is your favorite. I can't remember the word you used.
Crusade.
Query
crusade.
And you're being serious or sarcastic?
No, I'm being serious. Because I think you were right. I think you were right all along. And I don't always say that.
Can you repeat that, please?
I think you were right, and I think you were right all along about that specific topic.
Did you ever disagree with me?
No, because the numbers have always been ridiculous. I mean, it started with Nashville, right? That's the first one that we really made fun of.
Okay.
But to think, Jake, that there were 750,000 individual people in Green Bay, Wisconsin is absurd. It's
and
absurd
people believed it.
That.
People believed it, Derek. Like, everybody's like, no. Like, I was this hater because I'm like, guys, and I'm going to repeat what I've said forever, okay? The NFL draft does, and I don't understand it. It's not my cup of tea. But to each their own. The NFL does very impressive, unbelievable attendance numbers. Why people want to stay, again, nonetheless. Do I think that it is possible that when they show the aerial in round number 1, that there are 60 to 80,000 people in totality there? Yeah, sure. And a lot of this began with, to be fair, Jim Irsay during the Detroit year where he's like, I think he said 500,000. There are 500,000 people right now partying in Detroit for the NFL draft. And I'm like, 500,000 people. 500,000 people. And then people said, oh, no, Nashville, they had 600,000 people at the NFL draft. 600,000 people. That's taking every person in Marion County and saying, okay, head down to Monument Circle. And then doing an aerial footage of 5 square blocks and saying every person that lives in Marion County is there. I'm going to go back to what I said a couple of months ago. The NFL at one point insinuated or made comment that if Indianapolis ever hosted the NFL draft, that it was unlikely to be held at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You know why? Because the Indianapolis Motor Speedway gives you tangible, visible, indisputable proof and evidence as to whether or not there are 275,000 people there. And if the NFL draft said we're going to go to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that would mean, according to the NFL, that think about race morning and how long it takes to get all those people in. That means that all day long on the day of the opening round of the draft, everybody's going to go there. They're going to watch the first 15 picks. All those people are going to leave, and then you're going to replace that exact same number all over again. And now you're 50,000 shy of what we're in Nashville for round 1. That's the biggest load of malarkey of all time. And Pittsburgh, there's a television station in Pittsburgh that was doing the Lord's work where they interviewed officials for the city of Pittsburgh. And I know because somebody told me, somebody reached out to me last week and they said, you know what, I was brought into Pittsburgh to help their police department with crowd control and getting everybody in and everything else. And he said, and you're not going to believe this. I said, what? And he goes, the Pittsburgh Police Department actually said that they're planning on 1 million people being at the draft. 1 million people being at the draft. And this television station in Pittsburgh just did a story that said, you know what, weird thing, 40% of all hotel rooms in downtown Pittsburgh are available. And in addition to that, they finally got the NFL to admit that every time somebody enters into the draft and walks back out, they get counted as a person. Guess what? 500,000 just became 80 real quick.
Yeah, you're counting 3 times. You're counting the people that are there Friday, Saturday, or Thursday,
and that,
Friday,
that's
Saturday.
If the people that
times.
leave come back. You know.
Yeah, you're counting them 3 times at least. So yeah, it's inflated. And that's not to say that the draft and taking the draft on the road hasn't been hugely popular,
right.
as opposed to being in Radio City Music Hall, right? It's been hugely, and I would love to have it here. In fact, my next IBJ column, I'm going to talk to some city
Where would you
leaders
put it?
and things like that. I don't know. I'm hoping somebody tells me because I honestly don't know. Maybe they'll have, there was a time where Pan Am Plaza felt like it would be a good fit, but obviously you can't do that now with the construction over there. But I'm hoping that one of them end up telling me. Time for you mentioned the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Time for our Winners Drink Milk. winner of the week brought to you by our friends. Oh, actually, can we get that again here real quick, Vince?
What are you
Watch
doing?
the muscle here just pulsates when I twist the milk. Man,
Why are
that's
you
kinda
biting
hot,
your
isn't
lip?
it? Look at that. Oh, yeah. That's what I always say. Milk does the body good.
Listen.
Because I drink milk.
Milk does a body good and winners drink milk, but don't forget, not only is milk refreshing and delicious, but chocolate milk in particular after a workout is perfect because you get the same amount of vitamin A that you get in spinach. You get the same amount of potassium you would get in a banana. You get the same amount of protein you would get in hard-boiled eggs, and it is obviously awesome and refreshing. And keep in mind, it is the greatest tradition in all of sport. I believe this is the 90-year anniversary of Louis Meyer drinking the swig of milk inside Victory Lane for the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
1936.
And the American Dairy Association of Indiana, dairy farmers right here in the state that are
Do you need my
creating
help?
What's that?
Oh, you look like you were struggling. I didn't know if you needed my
Creating
help.
milk each and every day, all of the great farmers like our friend Carrie Estes, who we met a couple of years ago. And once again, we will be emceeing the rookie luncheon.
There you go. 8,500 rookie luncheon. It'll be a lot of fun. This is completely off the wall. I don't know if I've ever complimented this professional sports franchise in my life.
Hold on.
But they're my winner of the week.
Okay, hold on.
This it's a little bit of a low bar.
It's a professional franchise.
But I was just like, you know what? Like, they've had a really nice season, and their team's pretty good. I don't think they're going to win the championship or anything like that, but their team is pretty good.
Is it in the East or the West?
It's in the East.
And is it a city that you and I have been in at the same time?
No.
But they're in the playoffs.
They're in the play-in.
Ah.
I don't know what seed they are. I think they're the 8th team. They might be 9th.
The Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Good for them. They hadn't made the playoffs in 10 years. They haven't won a playoff series in like 20-something years. And if you talk about really like the worst professional sports franchises, and I'm talking big three because we don't really follow NHL.
Obscure, right?
Yeah, it's truly one of the worst, historically speaking. You know, the Pacers had a bad season this year. You know how many times the Pacers previously had won fewer than 25 games in the last 50 years of NBA existence? Twice. 83 and 85. That's it. No, you're good. 83 and 85 were the only other times. Whereas teams like Charlotte and Sacramento, like they crank out seasons like that all the time. But, you know, they got lucky, I think, with Con Knippel, who's been not Cooper Flagg, but he's been probably the second best rookie in that class. LaMelo Ball started to really kind of come into his own. Brandon Miller's a nice player. You know what I mean? Nobody talks about Brandon Miller. He's a nice player. Miles Bridges has turned into a good NBA player. It's a good team.
It is.
I don't know. Shout out to the Hornets. I know that's a really random winner of the week, but
do you know why they're called the Hornets?
I have no idea.
Because during the Revolutionary War, there was a British commander that sent back a letter or, you know, a documentation as to what his troops were up against in the Charlotte area and said, we have come across a group of men that swarmed like a pack of hornets.
Heck yeah. Shout out Union Army.
Who do you think more is the Queen City, Cincinnati or Charlotte?
Is it both in homage to the Queen
I
overseas?
actually don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know either. Is there another Circle City?
Cincinnati is very German, so I wouldn't think it's, you know.
Is there another Circle City? Or does anybody else call
don't think
themselves
so.
Circle City? Like, does
think so.
Cheyenne, Wyoming call itself the Circle
I don't
City
think
or
so.
something? I mean, I don't know. It is interesting that they're two Queen cities.
Wyoming is square.
Now,
Nothing is
if I remember right, the old, and this is 90s nostalgia, the old Charlotte Hornets played at the Charlotte Coliseum.
I remember that.
And the logo on the floor for the Charlotte Coliseum was a Queen's crown. Do you remember that? They had the hive, they had the honeycomb on the court where you were like, whoa, this is amazing. And the big Buzz the Hornet logo in the middle. And I remember they had the crown. It was like Charlotte Coliseum, and it had like a little crown on it.
I vaguely recall that. Yeah.
Like the Alonzo Mourning, LJ level.
Muggsy
Bogues would have been there then. Yeah.
Queen's University,
who Purdue just beat.
That's right.
In the NCAA tournament as well. Yeah. So shout out to the Hornets, our winner of the week, and shout out to our friends winnersdrinkmilk.com. Month of May will be here before you know it.
It's the best.
The rookie luncheon will be here before you know it. Best time of year, and we always love hanging with our friends Brooke and Jenny and the whole crew over there at American Dairy Association Indiana. We always appreciate them sponsoring the show and supporting the show. We come back. We got quick hits, including, Jake, it's mid-April. That means it's IU basketball's time to shine.
That's right.
We'll talk about that when we return. It's Corey and Schultz presented by Bailey and Wood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do, from Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
At Bailey.
And we're back. Corey and Schultz rolling along, episode 282 here at the ISC Sports Network. We're going to look up the area codes every time we did a new
I'll look up area
show.
code 282.
202 is D.C., right? 212 is New York City.
I'm looking.
I don't think I know any other two sandwich twos that are in there. Time for our quick hits. I made the snarky joke about IU basketball, but they did have a really nice day. Oh, it's not an area? Okay, not an area code, according to show researcher Greg Rakestraw. Indiana basketball added 4 players on Monday. We're taping this early Tuesday morning, including a former Indiana Mr. Basketball and top 50 recruit, Marcus Burton from Notre Dame, who's a really nice player.
I think a lot of people thought Jalen Harrelson would be one from Notre Dame as well, but I don't think he's got them on his list. I haven't heard where he's going.
No, he cut them off.
Yeah, correct.
His Final Four did not include IU.
Correct.
But at Penn, Burton was a monster, and then he averaged over 21 points per game as a sophomore for Notre Dame. But then he was hurt last year outside of like a handful of games. They also added Duke guard Darren Harris and Georgia Tech guard Jaden Mustaf.
Aren't they expected to add the big man from Alabama as well?
Yeah, I didn't see that was confirmed yet.
I mean, it has unofficially been confirmed, but I don't know that Indiana's confirmed it. But who knows?
Oh, I didn't even see you saw like 24/7 Sports or somebody report?
I mean,
Okay.
people were projecting that's going to be the
Okay,
case.
then
right?
that's another one. I mean, they got to rebuild that roster, right?
I get it, Derek, and I have mixed feelings on it because I understand, the necessity to go out and get players this way at some point, and they do have freshman players as well. I mean, you need some foundation and base at some point of you can't just be totally overhauling your roster every year. Having said that, this is really kind of the first true give it time, plant the seed year of origin for Darren DeVries. But I'm sorry for this. I apologize. I'm sorry. I've done this with Andre Patterson. I've done this with Charlie Miller. I've done this with Neil Reed. I've done this with Deron Davis. I've done this with Marshall Strickland. I've done this with Bracy Wright. I've done this with Noah Vonleh. I've done this with Thomas Bryant. I've done this with Luke Recker. I've done this with Jason Collier. I've done this with James Blackman Jr. I've done this with Ron Patterson. I've done this with Jeremy Hollowell. I've done this with on and on and on.
Tucker
right?
DeVries last year. I mean, I remember people thinking
he
was going to be like an all Big
you
Ten,
just
like
never
great
know.
player. And he was
These look to
not
be
even
very
close.
good players, and I trust Ryan Carr. I know Ryan Carr, that character means something to him as well, and he's going to take a long, hard look at that. And I trust it. But it's one thing. It beats the alternative. But I'll wait to see the proofs in the pudding guy.
Yeah, and it's got to be a fit, right? I mean, I think Marcus Burton can really play, but can you get the pieces around him that fit? But it's just all of it, Jake, is Lamar Wilkerson wasn't on anybody's radar last year, and he was IU's best player by far.
Right.
By far, he was their best player. He was one of the 10 best players in the Big Ten last year. I was looking at a transfer portal ranking, and it had Caden Pierce 243. And I'm like, Caden Pierce had offers from UConn, and he visited Duke and Gonzaga, and he's going to 243. I mean, I don't know where they even come up with this stuff, but whatever. I don't think there's an exact science to it, but, Indiana's got to build a roster. This is the position that they're in right now because with all the turnover that they have every single year, this is the game that they have to play. And, man, hopefully they play it a lot better than they've played it the last 2 years. Because 2 years ago right now we were all excited about, Miles Rice and Kayvon Carlisle,
right.
and you're like, those guys can't play dead. You know what I mean? And it just didn't work out for them. Ozzie Fudd taken first overall in the WNBA draft, which happened last night. Pairs with her former teammate, and I think this is true, also former girlfriend. They're not together anymore. Paige Beckers.
I think that's right.
They were dating for a while.
That may be right.
And I don't know if that's awkward or not. I don't know. Would that be like weird to be like, hey, you're a number one pick, I'm a number one pick too. Hey, we used to be together, now we're not, but now we're together again. We're on the same team.
If they had like
weird?
a bitter breakup, then it would probably be hard to be on the same team.
I don't know if they had a bitter breakup.
Would you and Katie Koleski have worked well together?
Oh God, no! I would have thrown up before every game. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Would have just puked right on the floor. 4 UCLA players went in the top 10, and the Fever took South Carolina point guard Raven Johnson 10th overall.
The restraining order would have also made it difficult.
That
right,
would have been
practices.
problematic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been tough for our working relationship. The new CBA in the WNBA. Get this, Jake. Fudd will make 7 times what Beckers earned last season. Second and third round picks this year in the
now,
WNBA
that's
draft.
probably a bigger issue than the breakup.
Well, maybe, yeah. Second and third round picks will make $270K, which is more than the previous max salary for any player in the WNBA.
I'd like to ask this about the
Big
number one overall
pay
pick.
raise.
Tell me again the number one overall pick.
Ozzie Fudd.
Okay. I mentioned this yesterday. If she becomes like, you know how some players, you're like, they're just a glue guy or a glue girl,
Yeah.
right? She needs to become a glue player, right?
You're going to make the Elmer Fudd joke? She's actually way more than a glue player. Like, she's a
I understand. But
incredible
if she
player.
becomes a glue player, then her nickname would be Elmer's Fudd, right?
All right, moving on. Rock and Roll Hall of
just
Fame
saying.
surprisingly includes Oasis. I was
Boy.
surprised to see that
Good to shoot the ball.
on there. Oasis, your boys, part of the Rock and Roll Hall of
You
Fame.
were surprised to see Oasis. Why?
I think they're a little more. What I would make the comp to is they're Vlade Divac, right? They had
Okay.
a great international career. Okay, in America, pretty good. Like, you remember that they played and things like that, and you remember, what is it, the Wonderwall, and they had another song that was sort of big, something about fireworks, and but normally, like in England, they were really big. And I think that's, yeah.
What do you think is the total number of worldwide albums sold for Oasis? What's your guess?
Boo. Worldwide?
Yes.
So that world.
I mean,
includes
albums
Europe.
sold's kind of weird to say anymore, right? Because nobody buys albums.
I mean, I bet you that Oasis sold 50 million albums. 48 of them were in Liverpool.
Okay.
Also, Billy Idol, Iron Maiden, Joy Division, and New Order. How is Luther Vandross not already in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? How is that even possible?
100 million.
That's great. And Wu-Tang Clan, hell yeah. RZA, Jizza, Inspector Deck, Method Man, Old Dirty Bastard. Can I say that? That's his name. That's his proper name. So that's not cursing, right? To say, I'll just say ODB. Rest in peace.
Would you like to know my quick hit, Derek?
Yeah.
A year ago at the Grand Prix of Long Beach, I was getting geared up for the radio network. Michael Young walks over and goes, "That's kind of cool." I go, "What?" And he goes, "Peter Brady's over there." I said, "Peter Brady? For the Brady Bunch?" You know, when I was in high school, I did a radio show, and I did a segment called Impossible Brady Bunch Trivia. I don't know that I've ever been stumped, and I've stumped many. And so I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Christopher Knight, the guy that plays Peter Brady, he's hanging out in one of the garages over there." So I go walking over, and there is Peter Brady. So I walk up, introduce myself. We're talking. I tell him that I'm the master of Impossible Brady Bunch Trivia. He's highly impressed. And he says, "Well, listen, next year when you come to the race, hit me up, and I'll take you over to the Brady Bunch house. I'll take you to all the filming locations." Okay. So I didn't want to be a complete creeper and be like, "Well, what's your number?" You know, I'm not like you to Katie Koleski. So I just play it cool. I'm like, all right. And lo and behold, we're getting ready to go to Long Beach. So what happens? I use my wide and vast network of connections to track down the cell phone number of Christopher Knight, who played Peter Brady. I call him up. "Chris, what's up? Jake Query in Indianapolis. I work at the radio network. I met you last year." "Yeah, what's going on?" "Listen, I know you made the comment in passing." And he goes, "Let's do it." So Saturday, Derek.
Wild.
Qualifying ends at 5:05 at 6:30. I will be at the Brady Bunch house. I will be there with Christopher Knight, a.k.a. Peter Brady. I had a custom-made T-shirt made to wear for the photos on the steps, the whole deal. It references something that is iconic about Peter Brady, and he also said maybe time permitting we'll go over to one of the lots to see where they also filmed a bunch of the show and had pork chops and applesauce.
I'm trying to think of what a comp the Brady Bunch would be.
Saved by the Bell.
For my generation.
Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, maybe that would work. Where anyone in your group can, like, quote entire episodes and things like that, and the Brady Bunch has no relevance to. I mean, obviously, I know the Brady Bunch, I know the Brady Bunch house, the AstroTurf, and all of that, but it has no relevance to my life really because it wasn't a thing when I was growing up. I'm not even sure it was still. Would it have still been going?
No,
in the
it was
80s?
done before I was born.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was. So what's funny is when I was a kid, it was like Saved by the Bell for you in the fact that it was on like cable television all
Just
day
on a
when
loop,
you got home from school.
right? Yeah.
And I didn't realize that what I was watching at that time were 8 and 10-year-old episodes. So it was off the air by 73. It was 69 to 73.
Okay. Yeah. But it's, I mean, he must think it's great that 50 years later, he still has people asking.
He's
to
a
stalk
super nice
him
guy.
out. Yeah.
He's coming on my radio show Thursday.
Nice. That'll be great. I'm busy Thursday, but good luck with it. We come back on the show, Chateau Kitchen's Buy It or Boldly.
Are you going to text me again halfway through it, asking me about the George Hill
I was
show?
in my car, yeah. I was at like Central and 52nd. I'm like, hey, mention me on the air. We come back on the show, Buy It or Boldly from Chateau Kitchens. We'll tie a bow on this thing next. Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgages and a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgages and a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Buy It or Boldly.
Derek, you got to have a little more
edition of
enthusiasm
Query and
there
Schultz.
about Chateau Kitchens.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're back. Chateau Kitchens, you got to have a little oomph, right?
Chateau Kitchens, yay! ChateauKitchens.com.
They're the best.
Seriously, yay! They really are great. Stephen Moore and his team will transform your home, anything on the interior of your home, whether it be a kitchen, a bathroom, a basement. They've done all three of those things for me. They're in the business of in-home transformations. Instagram and Facebook at Chateau Kitchens for before and after pictures. Don't even take my word for it. Just look at the beautiful, beautiful after effects of all of their renovation projects right now on their social accounts. Head to ChateauKitchens.com and sign up for your project today. Buy It or Boldly, statement number one. With those pesky Pacers out of the way, the New York Knickerbockers will make the NBA Finals.
No, that's total bullshit.
Buy it.
Okay.
Buy it. Why not? Weirdly, and this, Jake, you know how I feel about the Knicks, right? For a long time in my life, the Knicks were my everything. I loved the Knicks. The Knicks were the love of my life from age 5 to certainly through 15, even older than that, really, all the way through high school. I had a hard time with the transition to James Dolan's ownership and all of the many GMs that they had, Scott Layden and Isaiah Thomas and all these executives that were truly terrible. The Phil Jackson years were a disaster. And I sort of mentally divorced myself from the Pacers. And I've not tried
From
to
the Knicks, you mean?
from the Knicks. I've not tried to give Knicks fandom to my son, but for some reason, James, I have Knicks stuff in the house because I have a bunch of Patrick Ewing stuff in the basement, and James sees that stuff. He's become like a Knicks fan.
I thought he was a Suns fan.
He is a Suns fan too. He likes multiple teams.
Does he like the Pacers?
He likes the Pacers too, which is weird. But we've been watching like Knicks highlights in the morning when we wake up. We check the Yankees, we check the Knicks. And so now I'm kind of like almost like emotionally invested. Like I want to see the Knicks actually do well in the playoffs this year. I do think that there is something in the deep, deep innards of me. We already said grundle. Could we say loins? Deep in my loins, where I would have like a visceral reaction to a Knicks championship if that ever happened, because they were so deeply meaningful to me for a long time in my life when I was a kid. But I don't know. The East is going to be really. It's still Boston,
Boston's
right?
going to win the East.
It's still Boston.
Boston is winning the East. It's over.
Yeah. Because I think Cleveland's good. I think Cleveland's like they were last year to me.
Boston's
like
going to win the
They're
East.
good. They're not that great. I don't think my document's saved because I don't have 1 or 3 for Biter Bull Bleep. That was actually supposed to be our second one. The next one. Do you
Okay,
have a
how about
Biter Bull
this?
Bleep? Yeah,
How
fire
about
away.
this? Boston, if they win the East, will face in the West a team that comes from a city with a smaller population than Indianapolis. Biter Bull Schultz.
Check on that.
What are you doing?
Check on that.
Checking on what?
So I'm talking Oklahoma City has a smaller population.
Okay.
San Antonio has a smaller
Okay.
population. Minneapolis,
Okay.
smaller population.
No, Minneapolis is bigger.
What do they count St. Paul?
Yeah, I mean the metro area is bigger.
Okay. But San Antonio proper is not bigger than
I don't think
Indianapolis.
San Antonio I'm considering is smaller.
Yeah.
In television market, it's smaller.
So it's basically Spurs and Thunder or the field.
Right.
Right? No, I'm going to take the Spurs or Thunder. I think the Nuggets might have a tough time with Minnesota the first
My
round.
one thing
and
about
I don't
the
think the
Pacers-
Lakers are very good.
Derek-
Houston is a wild card in there. I don't think the Lakers are
I
great.
think that the Pacers have a 2-year window here because of this group, but also because you've got to get your title in before Wembanyama is hitting his stride, which he's already entering into it, or Cooper Flagg. Those two guys are going to be, and obviously Oklahoma City stacked. But thank goodness they're not in the West.
I did not expect Cooper Flagg to be like a transformational level
It's
player.
unbelievable.
The
He had
statistics are just
He had
mind-numbing.
96 points in 2 games, and no
Just
one talked about it.
mind-numbing. And he's so skilled. I mean, some of these guys now, I know we want to protect Jordan's legacy and stuff like that, but when we have conversations about then and now, I mean, you look at what these guys at their size can do. It's just insane.
Cooper Flagg,
It's just
if he
insane.
had not gone to the prep school, Cooper Flagg would have been playing high school basketball in Maine.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
What would he have averaged?
Yeah, 100. 100 a
Honestly.
game. Yeah. 100 a game. Maine, great state. One of America's most underrated. Thank you to our
Yeah, but
tremendous
not a
sponsors.
basketball hotbed, right?
Chateau Kitchens, of course, which we're talking about right now with Biter Bull.
3
Our
guys
friends,
are running up and down the floor in LL Bean boots.
American Dairy Association, Indiana, ADAI, winnersdrinkmilk.com. Month of May almost here. Hoagies and Hops and Chili Water Brewing Tap Room.
Our point guard's late. The lobster
42nd
boat
and
didn't get in
Boulevard.
till
Delicious
4.
beers, delicious sandos, and, of course, our presenting sponsor, Bailey & Wood Financial Group. For Brant, for Vince, for Rake, he's Jake. I'm Derek. We'll see you next time right here on Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
At an Indiana dairy farm, long workdays stretch into more labor after sunset. A newborn calf needs watching. Barn needs cleaning. Tractor needs some handiwork for tomorrow's tasks. Just like in your own home, the day's chores are never done until the family beds down for the night. Dairy farmers and their families share the same dream with all of us, that what we all do is worthwhile. Bringing to market pure, safe, and healthy dairy foods is what they do. From Indiana's dairy families to ours every single day. Learn more at winnersdrinkmilk.com.